All right, we'll get started in just a second, inshallah. All right, we can get started, inshallah. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, everyone, and welcome to the workshop for today for EPC, which will be on the art of writing. So we'll talk a little bit about writing in the different types of formats that we have for the EPC competition, and hopefully we'll get a few tips here and there on how to make your essays and speeches clear and concise and effective and interesting to everyone. So feel free to raise your hand or leave a message in the chat if you have any questions throughout. And with that, let's get started. All right, so I'm sure everyone is already familiar with the different topics and the different levels. So just to get an idea of everyone in the room today, I'd really like to know what level everyone is in at the moment. So you can leave a message in the chat, or you can annotate on the screen. What level are you working on for today or for this year's EPC competition? You can also say it out loud if you'd like. Just want to get an idea of who's with us today. Are people in levels 1 and 2, 3 to 4? Okay, so we have some level 3 to 4. Anyone else? All right, some more levels 3 to 4. 5 to 6. All right. Okay. Great, I think. Okay, 3 to 4. Awesome. All right, so everyone here is going to be writing an essay. Okay, another 3 to 4. Very good. Okay, Jazakumullah khairan. Thank you for sharing. So, great. So that means that, okay, we're going to be writing, some of us are writing reports about the experiences of Muslim Americans, challenges, and how we can use experience from the past to navigate challenges from today. And then we have some of us that are writing on more of an argument or a perspective about your ideas on what is the future of Muslims in the modern world, and how everything in the environment in society can impact the ways that we are going to be able to move forward and contribute to the society and the world. All right, great. Okay, so why does anybody write an essay, right? So the idea for anyone who's writing any type of piece is that they have an idea that they want to make and they want to communicate it from themselves to another person or to an audience, to one person or to many people, just to be able to convey all the perspective that they have, which might be different from someone else's, or they've done some work to look into, they've done some research and come to a specific conclusion, and they want to share this conclusion with a lot of other people. Okay, so in today's workshop, some of the topics that what we'll be looking at is, first, again, we've already looked at the topics, and then in terms of writing, we'll start off with thinking about the purpose and the audience, and then some different ideas for brainstorming when you're just getting started for writing, or if you've already started thinking about it, but you got stuck on a particular idea or a particular, or you want to find new ways to explain this idea. We'll then talk about making a thesis statement, so a thesis statement that is really strong and will be able to communicate concisely everything that you're trying to convey in this essay. And then how we're going to conduct some research, different types of sources we can look at and different ways that we can access these resources. We'll think about essay structure, and then starting to actually write the essay by first outlining and then writing, and then reviewing both on individually and maybe getting feedback from others. And finally, we'll think about how can we make this really strong and write an essay that someone will remember or that will leave an impact on someone. Okay, so looking at these different topics or different portions of the talk today, I'd like to get an idea also, what stage is everyone in? Are you guys still in the brainstorming phase, or you already have an idea, but you're starting to look for resources and primary, secondary sources, or maybe you've already started writing and you're trying to make a stronger essay. Okay, so we have some people in the brainstorming. Yeah, you can leave it in the chat. You could also annotate on the screen if you'd like, but yeah, what stage are you all at? Okay, some more brainstorming. Right. Okay, so some brainstorming, some outlining. Very good. Okay, that's really great to hear. All right, so let's get started. So we're going to start off for today with the purpose and audience. So we have a topic, and now we want to write an essay. So we have to think really about what is the purpose of this essay first. Are we trying to inform somebody else about an issue, or maybe about some facts, or are we trying to be persuasive? Are we trying to convince somebody to perform an action? So when we're thinking about creating, or when we're starting off writing, we want to think about, what do I hope to accomplish in this essay? And also part of this planning process is to think about who your audience will be, okay? Because thinking about who your audience is will affect first what you talk about, for example, the types of details you include, and also how you'll do so. So first we'll have to think about what your audience knows about the topic, and at the same time, what they might not know about the topic, because you want to include information that will be relevant, but not extra, not redundant, okay? So thinking about the audience will be important. You also want to think about, is this topic interesting to the audience, or how can I make it interesting to the audience? And also, will your reader have any previous knowledge about this topic? Maybe they have some biases. And if they do, then that will be something that you have to take into account when you are continuing to structure your essay or speech. You'll also, again, also thinking about your audience will let you know what type of details you'll want to include in your speech, in your essay, and things like details as in what will be most effective for this type of audience. Maybe a fact would be interesting, or maybe a statistic, for example, could be interesting, but depending on the topic and depending on the type of people that you think will read it, maybe they already know this statistic, or maybe it's a statistic that they can't relate to, so it's not as interesting. Okay, so that's some ideas of how thinking about your audience will affect your writing, and also the tone. So thinking about what level of detail, what level of, so if we're using a more neutral stance, or maybe if you're making an argument, you want to use some more targeted words. So just thinking about what type of tone will be in your writing. All right, so here's a question. Is an argumentative essay the same as persuasive? So they can be some slight differences between the two. An argumentative essay might be one where you are trying to convey or make an argument that you want the reader to believe. And so it's a persuasive essay may do something similar, but it could also include trying to convince the audience to perform a different action. So I think there are slight differences between argumentative and persuasion, because persuasive essays might be trying to incite some action. Can we write about anything in the essay? Yes, as long as you are writing to achieve the goal, which is to address the topics. And you can include any types of sources as long as they're true and accurate. And yeah, this again, the main guideline is that you have your topic, and you just want to be able to address the topic within the guidelines. Okay, any questions? Does the format have to be a column? We'll talk about format earlier, but later on. But it's general essay format, so you'd want to have an introduction, body, and a conclusion. So we'll talk about that a bit later on, but once we get to that point, if you have further questions, feel free to ask again. Okay. All right. So because a lot of us are in the brainstorming phase, let's start here. So let's say that you know your topic now and you want to just get started, but it's hard to figure out where to start. Maybe you know a little bit about the topic, but you don't have a lot of sources. Maybe you don't know anything about the topic. Or maybe you have an idea, but it may or may not change based on the type of evidence that you find once you start doing your research. So brainstorming
For what?
So brainstorming is a good place to start, and there are a lot of different techniques that you can do in order to just get the creative ideas start to flow, okay? So one idea that you can start with is free writing. So just take a look at the topic and then set a timer and just write. Just write anything that comes to your mind relating to that topic. You don't have to think about punctuation or proper grammar or anything. At this point, you're just trying to get all of your ideas from your mind onto a piece of paper. And one idea that I have learned before in terms of free writing is using something like a spiral structure. So you would start from the center. So you would start at the center of your spiral with an idea, and then just keep on writing, turning the paper around as you keep on writing and just following your train of thought. Okay, just let it flow, and then because you're just writing out all your ideas and you're turning the paper as you go, so you end up kind of just engaging both like your mind and also your hands while you're doing it, and just letting it flow. And importantly, make sure to set a timer, let's say maybe 2 minutes or 5 minutes. Let it all out, and then at a later time, you can read over what you wrote and see what kind of ideas you can extract from that. Again, this is just brainstorming, so it can be really whatever ideas come to your mind. Maybe you know a little bit more about the idea or about the topic. So in this case, you can think about starting to map some ideas out. Maybe you have like ideas 1, 2, and 3 about the topic, and then, you can branch out from idea 1 a little bit more. You can branch out from idea 2 in these different ways, and maybe idea 3 and idea 4 are a bit related. So doing something like this can help you think about what are some of the ideas you have and how they might be related to each other. So it'll help you eventually try to tie them together and perform and make an argument. Okay, you can also do bullet points. You say idea 1, and this is what I know about the idea. Here's another one. Here's a third one. Here's a second idea I have, and here are some things related to that, and a third one. You can also think about asking big questions, like who, what is the topic? Why is it relevant to me? Why is it important? How can I relate to this topic? How might other people relate to this topic? When will it be relevant to me? Thinking about some of the topics are related to like inventions and um, like past and present. So when and where did some of these events happen? So just going through kind of like a journalist and asking all of the who, what, where, when, why, how questions. Okay, so let's take a second to actually try out some of these brainstorming techniques. Okay, does anyone have questions about these 4 different types of techniques? So free writing, you just write whatever you can for like the 2 minutes. Clustering, bullet points, you write out some ideas and see how they're related to each other, or listing out big questions. Okay, so let's take a 2-minute activity where we're going to we'll take these different techniques and choose one and just do it for 2 minutes, all right? Think about, try to bring up the topic for your level, and I'll start the timer now. All right, 2 minutes. Okay, again, so we're taking some of these brainstorming ideas and using them for your topic. So if you are doing level 3, you're going to take the level 3 topic. And for example, if you take the first technique, you're going to just write any idea that comes to your mind about that topic for the 2 minutes. So it could be ideas of some of the events in the past in that might be of relevance to current times. It could be ideas about different people in different periods of time who might have had an impact on the current or like who we can learn from in the current days, or things like that. But this is just, again, all right, the timer is up, but this was just a practice of using some of these brainstorming techniques to start to bring out any ideas that are already in your head floating around and just get them solidly on a piece of paper. Okay, so let's say you've started brainstorming a few times, maybe a couple of ideas came up that you think we can expand on this, or we can think about this might be a good idea to focus on. All right, so we're at this point, we're starting to move forward in the writing process. We might want to start thinking about what will the main idea of this essay be? So I have the prompt, I have the topic. What is my one word answer or response to this prompt? Okay, so this is called the main idea. And then eventually you'll want to write a thesis statement, which will be a very concise sentence that encompasses everything that you're trying to convey in this essay. So you might not be at this point yet after the brainstorming, So after you do brainstorming, you'll also want to do some research and go back and forth. And so this is a kind of a dynamic process. You'll want to go back and forth and do several iterations until you finally get to a really strong main idea. Okay, and so your thesis statement will be one sentence that demonstrates the entire direction of your essay. It'll address what topic you're talking about. Okay, it'll say what the purpose of your essay is, and it'll also give an idea of what type of writing strategy you'll be using, whether it's informative or argumentative or persuasive. Okay, so let's look at some examples. So for example, if we look at the statement, saving the whales should be a top priority. That might not be the strongest thesis statement because it is just a fact or it's an opinion. In order to make it a little bit stronger, we can look at the thesis statement below it, where we see that now we have a reason why we are saying that saving the whales should be a top priority. So we have, we're starting to make an argument that saving the whales should be a priority because X, Y, and Z. Okay. Same with the second one, where we're not just mentioning the topic, but we are saying the kind of conclusion that we're going to make in this essay. Okay, so this is the thesis statement that will be in your introduction. All right, so again, let's try to put this all together by starting to write our thesis statement. Okay, so I don't know if everyone has your topics out, but let's see if we can bring them onto the screen. All right, so yep, again, so for level 3, you're writing about the experiences of Muslim Americans today and the types of challenges or opportunities that they can encounter, and how can the experience of people from the Muslim figures from the past or from current times help us navigate. Okay, and then the high school category, we're looking at your perspective of the future of Muslims in the modern world. Then identifying one challenge that Muslims face. All right, so the first part of writing your thesis statement is you're going to restate the question that is in the writing prompt. So rewrite the topic in a shorter way. Okay. Right, so we'll take some time and okay, so yes, the topic. Yeah, hopefully everyone has the topics, but if not, I can again paste them from the EPC website so you can open them up. You can open it up and take a look at the topics. Oops. All right, there you go. So you can open up the topics on this website and those will be your topics. Okay, so again, in this first part, you want to restate the question that is for your topic. All right, in the second part, we're going to see if you can start to answer this question. So what is your claim to answer this question or your opinion? Okay, so in this example about climate change, this would be your position or your statement. Okay, so based on your topic, for the essay contest. What is your current claim? Okay. So we also want to say we're making a claim in the second part. How is that claim supported? Why are you making that claim? What types of evidence is supporting that claim? So those will be the main points that you will explore in your paper. They'll be the topic sentences, and they're the ones that are going to be supporting your essay. Okay, so you might have these already, or you might still be thinking about it. Perhaps most people are still in this first and second part where you're still thinking about the claim that you're going to make in your essay. Okay, so we have an example in the chat. So this is a good start. It's still a little bit broad. So in your final thesis statement, you will say, here's an example of a challenge that this person faced that you want to talk about in this essay, and how that the challenges that this person encountered and how their response to that challenge we're able to learn from it today. Okay. Yep. So again, we want to be more. We're going to be specific in this thesis statement, and it's going to tell us what you're going to focus on in this entire essay. But yeah, thank you for sharing. All right. So yep. In the end, we're going to put it all together. So if you can see the difference between step 2 and step 4. In step 2, the person makes a claim. Climate change is caused by human activities. So that's still not enough for a thesis statement because we want to show that we have some evidence and we want to show that this is supported by some real facts. Okay, so in this thesis statement on the right side, that's a stronger thesis statement and it shows some support for the claim that you're going to make. All right, so now let's move on. So thinking about research and looking for evidence to support your claim, there are a lot of different options out there. I think a lot of people will be thinking about figures from the past, Muslim figures. This might be like a companion. It might be a political leader, or it might be someone who stood out in their field, like a doctor, a lawyer, a Muslim lawyer that you think made an impact. So in order to find out more about this person or this event or whatever facts you want to talk about, there are a lot of different ways you can look at them. You can look at newspaper and magazine articles, books, encyclopedias, and remember, if you are using something like Wikipedia, that's not a main source, so you'll want to go back to the original source, and also web articles. But again, you just have to be careful. Think about how reliable is this source? Does it tell me what the original primary source is? And can I confirm that this source is valid? You might want to use some definitions or some facts, some statistics. So you can look up in the dictionary, scholarly papers. There are all sorts of databases online where you can get information. And again, try to maintain the validity of the sources that you use. You can even use stories, short stories, anecdotes. It might be something that happened to you, or it could be stories about other people in the past, kind of narrative structure, so you can get firsthand, secondhand accounts, and make sure, again, just verifying that these are accurate and reliable sources. And of course, because we're writing a lot of us might want to also incorporate some Islamic sources. For example, it might be an ayah and the tafsir. We might want to include a hadith and some type of narration, stories from the lives of the prophets and companions, and again, being careful with our sources and where we're getting these stories from, making sure that they're all accurate, or even stories from like biographies or the lives of other people who you want to talk about in your essay. All right, and then thinking then about writing structure. So in general, essays, I'm sure everyone is familiar with the idea of an essay having different sections. Okay, you're going to start off with an introduction, and then you'll go into the body that, and then a conclusion. So in the introduction, you'll want to grab the attention of the reader. Usually we think about a pyramid structure, so you start off with something really broad and slowly start to get more and more specific. And you definitely want to then state what your thesis statement is, okay? So your reader will be able to read your introduction paragraph and understand what kind of claim you're going to make in this essay. And then once you're in the body paragraphs, you'll have different paragraphs. Each has a topic sentence and then all the support that you're going to include about this to support this topic. And then finally, in the conclusion, you're going to restate your thesis statement, recap some of the main points that you made in your body, and just leave with any concluding thoughts. Okay, so, and that again, in every single paragraph, you'll want to include a topic sentence, a support with evidence and examples. So again, thinking about the sources that we mentioned, or other types of evidence, other types of examples, but make sure that your topic sentence is supported. Okay, you can't just make a claim and just say, this is my opinion. You have to include ways so that the reader understands why you have this, why you're making this claim, and why they should believe it as well. Okay, so at this point in the writing process, now that you have your thesis statement, you know what your main idea for the essay is going to be, and then you can look at some of the sources that you have and start to outline. So what points can you make that will be supported by the sources that you have found? And how will you organize your examples and evidences so that you can make a strong claim in each paragraph? And then how can you organize your paragraph so that you can make a strong claim as your main idea and thesis statement? Okay, so there you'll want to think about different ways that you could organize your paragraphs. Maybe it's by order of importance. It might be the challenge that the person that you're talking about faced and lessons that we can learn from it. Maybe you want to think about something in the an occurrence in the past that is relevant to us in the future and things that we may be able to learn from similar events in the past. Okay, different ways of organizing your paragraphs. Okay, so now in your introduction, you always want to start off with a hook. You want to hook the readers in from the very first sentence, from the very first couple of sentences, so that they are attentive. They say, okay, I think that this essay is worth reading, and I think that it'll be important. And so how can you catch the reader's attention? So there are a lot of different strategies. You might want to start off with a surprising or really important fact or statistic if it's related, or starting off with a story. It could be a personal story about a personal occurrence that has happened, or a narrative structure describing an event in the life of a person that you think is relevant or that is really interesting and that relates to the rest of your essay. You could include a quote, but just be careful, make sure that it's an interesting quote and it's relevant and related. Or even starting off with something like a question. Maybe asking a question to the reader will grab their attention, and then they'll have to start thinking about it on their own. And then so they get into the mindset of what you're going to talk about. Could also be a description, for example, for the inventions topic, a description of this invention and how it came about. You could also somehow form an emotional connection with the reader. So maybe you're talking about a story, but it's a story that the reader will be able to read and feel something about it. Maybe it's like it appeals to their emotions. Maybe it's something that's really really inspiring or really heart-wrenching or something of that nature. So that way it really stands out and from the very beginning of your essay. Okay, these are just some examples, but you can start off your essay in different ways in order to engage the reader from the very first sentence. Also thinking about the conclusion, once you have written your introduction, you've written all your body paragraphs to support your claim, and finally you get to the conclusion. So at this point, you will want to restate your main idea or your thesis again. You want to make sure that the reader understands, okay, so you said all of these body paragraphs with all of these different evidences and examples, and finally you want you're showing that all of these examples reinforce your main idea and your thesis. Okay, you want to recap the main points that you made and show that all of the points that you made work together to support your thesis. And in the end, you want to tie your whole essay together. Think about what you want the reader to go away with after reading your essay. All right. Okay, so now that we've outlined, we've thought about the hook in the introduction, the different body paragraphs, the conclusion. Now it's time to write. So again, using your outline as a guide, start to write your essay, letting all your ideas out. Also make sure that as you're using examples and evidences, keep track of where they came from and how they can how they can support your idea. And at this point, you're still in your rough draft. You don't need to worry too much about spelling or grammar. You just want to get all of your ideas from bullet point format in your outline into full sentences. All right, so there's a question about a possible thesis. I'll come back to that in the end, inshallah, okay? Okay, after writing your first draft, you can start with, you can put it away for a second now that you've done the whole draft, and then come back with some fresh eyes and start to revise. Go back to your topic. Read it again. Did you answer the question that's in the topic? Did you address every point that's in that prompt? And is your essay relevant to the topic, and does it answer the question? Look at your thesis statement. Is it clear? Is it concise? And does it cover everything that you talked about in your essay? Do you have evidence for this thesis statement? Look at all of the evidence and the examples that you wrote. Is each piece of evidence and each example relevant to your thesis statement? And do they all work together to show that you are making a statement that's valid and that the reader should believe or should understand and sympathize with? Also, you can look at the structure. Does it flow logically? Do you mention a fact that did you include all the details that are needed to be able to explain this fact, or did you provide enough context for this an example of an event that you mentioned in your essay. And then you can, of course, also do your proofreading because based after the first rough draft, make sure that you have corrected all your spelling and grammar, thinking about the tone, looking at the sentence structure and try to make it a little bit diverse so it's not too boring, so it's not boring to the reader. For example, you don't want everything to say, you don't want to list things, but you want to change up the sentence structures that you use. Okay, and you can also get feedback from others around you. You can ask them questions about your essay, for example, by asking whether or not your thesis statement is clear, whether all of the evidence and examples support your thesis statement. Did they understand everything that you're talking about, or did you need to include any other details or background information that would make things clearer, or any definitions or any descriptions that might be helpful? And do they have any questions for you? Or can they think of something that goes against your thesis statement that you might want to address? Yep, so getting feedback will help you revise your paper, and then you want to go through several iterations where you write and then get some feedback, do some revisions, think again, and go back and forth and get some more feedback until until you feel like you have an essay that addresses the prompt and is clear and well supported. Okay, and finally, let's think about some tips that can help you write an essay or a speech that is strong and stands out. One, again, is thinking about the hook and the conclusion. The hook is the very first thing that your reader will put their eyes on once they start to read your essay. So you want it to really drag them in, and so that so that it captures their attention. And also with the conclusion, you want to leave with show that you made some kind of impactful or insightful ideas in your essay. Okay, because this is what they're leaving with, so you want to make sure that you leave them with something to remember. You want to make sure that the argument that you're making is insightful and interesting. It's not something that's just completely obvious, but you are bringing a new perspective to it. You can use different types of sources using different types of sources to make a stronger argument, or making a thesis statement that is that forces your reader to think and reflect. So having an essay structure that is interesting but still logical. So not just listing like A, B, C, D, thus E, but changing up your sentence structures a little bit, maybe having some points where you force the reader to think and reflect, or you put in something interesting that makes the reader stop and think. And also trying to form an emotional bond with the reader. We talked about this a little bit in the introduction and hook, but trying to get at how can this topic relate to them? Why should they care about it? If you can convince the reader that the essay topic that you're writing about is relevant and interesting to them, then they'll definitely focus on it more. Then things like using active voice instead of passive, and using sentences that are clear and concise. So nothing that's too wordy for no reason. You're just trying to get your idea across in a really clear way. Okay, so that's what we have for today. So again, thinking about what stage you are in your writing process, and we talked about hopefully some things to think about at each step in the way. So I'm going to address, somebody sent me an example of a thesis in the chat. So I like that you're making a claim and a statement, and you are starting to get more specific, which is good. So I want you to include a little bit more about why you can make this claim, and yeah, so first, why you think this is true, and again, going back to the theme, why is this relevant to us today? So thinking about how you can show that some of the challenges that he faced can help us in our daily lives, or we can learn lessons from them. Okay, but I think you're starting off on a good note. All right, any other questions? You can, again, you can unmute yourself or you can write them in the chat if you'd like. Great. So I hope that you can use some of these techniques, such as the brainstorming techniques that we learned about in the beginning. So again, we had some brainstorming techniques here that you can use to start to get your ideas onto paper. Some tips for writing a thesis statement that is strong. Different types of sources you can use. Thinking about the structure of your essay, and thinking about hooks. So for the question in the chat, the best sentence starter, I'm guessing you're asking for I don't know if you're asking about the beginning, like the introduction, but if you are thinking about the introduction, the idea of the hook, again, it can be any one of these. So you want to think about think about what your thesis statement is going to be, or what is the main idea that you're going to write about in this paper, and then what is something related to this main idea that would catch the reader's attention. So again, it might be a surprising fact, or it might be you want to write about a challenge in a narrative format about what somebody has, what a Muslim figure had encountered in the past. Okay, I have a question here for the middle school topic.
Marks.
What are some challenges or
Just one.
Do we need to talk about both challenges and opportunities, or can we talk about can we write about something specific? No. You can choose one or the other or both. Again, it all depends on the direction that you're trying to go in this topic. So yeah, so you might want to start off with choosing one or the other. So putting choosing some challenges that we can, one challenge that we can learn from Muslim figures from the past or today, how to navigate that challenge, or on the other direction, an opportunity that we may be able to learn from some people of the past in order to do something to contribute to this opportunity in today. Yeah, you can put a title in your essay that gives an idea of what your essay, what the topic will be. Yeah, I like that people are starting to think about your thesis statements. So as you continue to do research and reflect on the topics, you'll be able to get a strong get a strong thesis statement that you can write the rest of your essay to support. All right, any last questions? Right, so I have a question about, let me talk about these rewards. So I think the answer to this question that you just sent will depend on the claim that you're trying to make in your essay. So if you are, I think you're level 3 and 4 or level 3. Yeah, so again, think about what challenge or what opportunity you want to focus on, and maybe related to that, there are some rewards that you get. Again, as long as you can relate it, make sure that it contributes to your thesis statement. You can definitely talk about what you mentioned. All right, I think that's it for today. I'll stick around for a couple more minutes if anyone has more questions. But jazakumullah khairan for everyone for joining, and I wish you the best in writing your essays and speeches, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.